Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we're going to be looking at Simply Cards and Papercraft issue 221. So this is a Christmas set. We've got two gifts here. So we've got this stamp set. This is Holly Jolly Christmas. So we've got a 22-piece stamp set here. And then we've also got a Have a Merry Christmas sentiment die from Onyx Studios. So if we just open this up, you can see just how big this is. This is sort of roughly 4" by 1.5". So it's a really fantastic size. And there is also 10 downloadable papers that you can download as well to match in with this Holly Jolly Christmas. So normally in my videos we'll have a look through the magazine at some of the inspiration. Let me know in the comment section down below whether you want to see the inspiration in the magazine or not. It's just something that I've always kind of done, but I have sort of started thinking recently, you know, is it something that I sort of need to include in my video? So let me know in the comment section down below whether you want to keep that portion or whether, you know, you're happy not to see it. For today I'm just going to show you what comes included in the next issue, so I'm still going to show you that part so you can see whether you want to buy the next issue if you're interested. So let's take a look at the back. So here we have, in the next issue, this is called Festive Foliage, and this is the biggest ever festive die set. So when it says the biggest ever, I'm not sure if it's due to the size of this, because there is only a handful of actual dies in here, so there's only 6 in here, but we've got this really lovely Noel die here, so you've got all of that foliage around the outside, and then you do have the individual letters as well, which of course you can use, and then we do have just some sort of bits of additional foliage there. We've also got 144 downloadable sentiments, lots of different colours, variations. You've got banners and different sentiments in there as well. This comes on sale on the 23rd of September, so I think this is now moved to the end of the month. I'm pretty sure before it was on sale in the first week of the month, but it looks like it has been moved to the end. Whether that's permanent or not, I don't know. So that is what comes included in issue 222. But for now, let's get into creating a card using the Holly Jolly Christmas stamp set from this issue. So for today's card, I'm only going to be using a handful of these stamps. Like I've said in previous videos looking at the magazines, I want to try and create something different. So, you know, you of course can use all of these stamps, but I want to sort of give you some inspiration on how to use them in a different way, whether you then apply it to this stamp set or a different stamp set. So the main stamps we're going to be using are these for kind of bauble ornament decorations here. These are the colours that I'm going to be using. So I didn't want to go completely traditional for the Christmas sort of palette. So the main colour that I've kind of added is this light blue Arctic Mist. I'm going to see how well this stamps. It might be that I swap that out for a darker blue shade, but we'll see how well that one stamps out. But yeah, other than that, I have gone sort of fairly traditional. And then for my sentiment, I think I'm going to go for this Holly Jolly Christmas sentiment here. And then I might use this peace, love, hope, health and happiness inside the card. I do really love that. So I've already trimmed down my cardstock. So my actual card itself is going to be a mini slimline card. This is top folding. So this is a 5.5 by 3.5". I've cut a matte panel again just out of white, so this is 3.25 by 5.25, and then the piece I'm going to be stamping onto, this is 3" by 5". So let's take this top panel to begin with. I'm not going to be using my Misti. I'm going to use some acrylic blocks for this, and all we're going to do is just stamp our ornaments just to create a full background. And I'm going to use my Versafine Onyx black ink to stamp these down just so it dries nice and quick. We're not going to be using any sort of alcohol markers or anything like that, so this ink is going to be perfect. So I'm just going to make sure that my card is nice and straight, and then I'm simply just going to come in and we're just going to create this background. So there is our background panel. I think this looks just fabulous as it is. This would be so beautiful just to colour these in with some watercolours, or even just to leave it as a black and white background. And I want to colour these in sort of as a block. So what I did is I took the sort of stamps themselves, and I actually just traced the shape of this onto some just tracing paper, and then I took a little bit of funky foam and again then just sort of drew out those shapes again. So what we're going to do is trim all 4 of these out, and then we can use these as sort of solid colour stamps. I wanted it to be quite kind of organic, I guess, in a sense, so I wasn't really sort of too worried about getting the shape spot on, because we're not going to be sort of colouring exactly in that. I want it to be kind of off-laid a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is just add a small amount of adhesive to the back of these, and I'm just going to add these back onto my acrylic blocks. Okay, so I've just zoomed in so you can really see what I'm doing here. So I've got my acrylic blocks with my handmade stamps. I've got my ink pads open and ready. I've got my stamp chamois as well just off to the side, so I can kind of mix and match those colours. So I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space. So let's first of all start off with our circle. So I'm just going to pop it into my ink pad. So we're going to start off with some green apple. And like I said, I don't want this to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I want this to be somewhat kind of off-centered and something a little different, a little more modern. So I'm going to just offset this. So I've zoomed in as far as I can, just so hopefully so you can really see that. So I've really kind of offset that. So let's just wipe off our stamp, and let's do another one again, and we're going to offset that. So let's come in here with a little bit of brick red. And again, I'm going to offset that just like so. Again, I'm just going to clean off that stamp. So let's come in with a different one. Let's come in with a little bit of Arctic Mist and really kind of see how this colour works. Let's get that nice and juicy. So again, we're just going to off-centre that. And you can see then we've just got those sort of little white bits around. I think that's going to look really, really nice. So again, I'm just going to wipe this off. Let's go with a little bit of red chili. And let's again offset that. Let's come in with a little bit of ocean spray. So I'm loving how this is coming together. I think this is such a fun design. And again, it's something just a little bit different from your kind of usual, you know, kind of Christmas cards. So I'm just going to carry on going all over this background, just filling in these sort of solid sections. So there's our finished background panel. I absolutely love how this has turned out. You could of course just cut this out perfectly and, you know, stamp this so it really does sort of colour these in. But I really love this more kind of organic look where everything's sort of slightly off-centered. Everything has just got a little bit more of a natural kind of flow to it. Yeah, I absolutely love how this has finished. So I'm just going to pop that to one side for the moment, and I'm just going to do a little bit of ink blending for our panel. So, you know, if you want to have everything colour coordinate really perfectly, this is a really great way of doing it. Rather than having to use sort of coloured cardstock, I want to create a simple matting layer, but I want it to match in with the colours that I've used for my background. I think I'm going to come in with that brick red, just for something a little bit, I guess, more classic, I suppose. So I'm going to take a blending brush, I'm going to come in with this brick red and just really simply kind of go around the edge. I want it to kind of look like we've ink blended it rather than coming on with some coloured cardstock. And of course then you only need to literally go around the edge of this. You don't need to go any kind of further in because you're not going to see that. Okay, so I've just blended it all the way around the outside. I'm then going to take my ink pad and I'm just going to really kind of darken up that edge, and I'm just swiping my ink pad just off the edge of that, and it's just going to give us a sort of darker look. So that's just giving us a nice border around that, but again, that colour matches in with the colour that we've used for our background. So to start my sentiment, I'm going to bring in my Misti here. We're going to go right in the centre because we're going to create a strip to go all the way across our card. So let's just make sure that is nice and straight. And I'm actually just going to use some black ink for this because we've got the black from our stamping. It will sort of tie in quite nicely. So I'm going to take my Versafine again. Let's just stamp that up. So I'm going to heat emboss this, and I'm going to use some of this Wow Clear Matte Dull embossing powder. So this is the first time that I've used this. I'm really curious to see how this is going to look. So let's just sprinkle this all on top. Let's knock off that excess. And then I'm going to use my new Wow heat gun. So this has got two settings on here. So we've got kind of a lower setting and a higher setting as well. So I'm going to start off with the low setting just because I haven't used this yet. So there's our heat embossed sentiment. So I can see it's got a tiny bit of shine to it. There is a little bit of it sort of more this end, which does look more matte than sort of the beginning of the sentiment. But I think I'll have to use this a couple of times to really kind of see how well it works with different ink pads and things like that. But the Wow heat gun, if you are looking for a heat tool, I would recommend that one. So I put that on heat setting number 2 and it melted it literally within seconds. Like, it was so quick and I barely had to let it heat up at all. So again, I'll pop a link to that in the description box down below. If you are looking for a new heat gun, I would definitely take a look at that Wow heat gun because I'm really impressed with how quickly that has heat set our sentiment. So now we've got our strip. I actually want to again do a little bit more ink blending onto this because again I really want everything to blend in nicely with our background. I'm going to take a little bit of this Arctic mist. So on our background, where the colours mainly kind of the Arctic mist and probably the reds mixed together, it's gone for this kind of grey colour a little bit, but I want to sort of bring that back with that Arctic mist in that. I want that to kind of pack a little bit of a punch. I think that's just going to work really beautifully. I always use sort of coloured cardstock and things and I forget about, you know, just using my ink pads so everything kind of matches nicely together, but it is really kind of making all the difference with this card. So let's take some of this Arctic mist and we're just gonna blend that straight over our heat embossed sentiment. So let's come back in with our Arctic mist now that we've trimmed that down. And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to swipe that over the edges. So we've got our red ink blended background, we have got our panel, and then we have our ink blended sentiment as well. And I just think for such an easy card, you know, there's not sort of too much going on with this, but I actually just think it's quite effective looking. It's all kind of about that background. The work has really gone into that background. So let's just add some foam tape to our sentiment. So let's add this. We're just gonna line it up with the edge of our card. Okay, so I've just added some more Big Mama foam tape to the back of this panel. So let's get this down onto our ink blended mat. And then I'm just going to use my tape runner just to add some adhesive to the back of this panel. And we can pop that onto our card base. So just to finish our card off, let's add our sentiment to the inside. Let's make sure our card is straight. And I think I'm also going to take our Santa stamp. I'm going to ink him up with our brick red again. And I'm going to stamp that right on top of our sentiment. So to finish the card off, I'm going to add some Ivory Seashell Nouveau drops just around our sentiment. That is then our finished card. So this was using the Holly Jolly Christmas stamp set from issue 221 of Simply Cards and Papercraft. So if you do like this card, please give this video a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below about actually looking through the magazine. Like I said, I really want to know whether you want to keep that portion in the video or whether you're happy to get rid of it. Let me know in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.